The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of KSMQ Public Service Media Incorporated or its assigns.
Welcome to On Cue. I'm your host, Eric Olson. On today's program, we explore the power of praise with author Bill Callaghan. Spencer Salmon joins me to talk about the new bike team coming together in Austin, and Jeff Smith gives us a Vision 2020 update on changing graffiti to art. It's going to be a great show. Stay with us. On Cue is next.
From KSMQ Television in Austin, this is On Cue, connecting interesting issues and interesting people. On Cue.
Now, that wasn't my family, maybe it was yours, but our guest Bill Callaghan grew up with 10 brothers and sisters along the shores of Lake Michigan, learned some important life lessons in his large and lively family, and joins us now to share some of those stories in his new book, Raised with Praise. William,
Eric,
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we were talking that there are similarities in your life between yourself and that wonderful movie Caddyshack.
Yeah, well, as growing up in Milwaukee, I was a caddy at Milwaukee Country Club, and there was a lot of Brentwood to Milwaukee Country Club, and so we had the Judge Smales and the Dr. Beepers and all those characters, very much so. So it relates to that.
Was your life as chaotic as we showed on that growing up? Do you remember that at all?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, you know, my mom and dad had set it up so that, you know, they had rules in our house where, you know, you can't say shut up, and you can't you know, have any kids in your bedrooms.
No tattling.
No tattling was one of them. Correct. In fact, they would spank the tattler versus the one being tattled on.
Wow.
And that was kind of a way of just keeping it to where you work your differences out between your brothers and sisters.
And that's some of the things you put down in print on your book, Raised with Praise.
Right.
Growing up in that large family and bringing some of those life lessons that you think were very successful to you today.
Very much so. My mom and dad's approach was more proactive than reactive. You know, they, you know, in interpretive communication, you know, half of it is body language, and your tone of voice is about 30–40%, and the rest of it is just the words that come out of your mouth. So how you say what you say to your kids is really important. And so my mom and dad decided to, you know, set down some ground rules, and I think they had to, you know, with such a large group of people. You know, the boys slept on the 3rd floor, and the girls slept on the 2nd floor, and you know, once breakfast or lunch was over with, the kitchen was closed, and you couldn't go in and make a sandwich or, you know, do your own thing. But in there, it was organized chaos. It really was, a lot like that clip that you showed at the beginning of this.
And we have pictures. You brought some pictures along of your family, the whole team, in the early ages, and then more recently. Mm-hmm. You published this book kind of as an autobiography and as a tribute to your folks, and fortunately they were able to read it before.
Yeah, in the year 2000, I got this idea. I was sitting in a hot tub in Chicago, and all of a sudden this idea landed like a cannonball in the tub. It was like, you should write a book, call it Raised with Praise, and get stories from your mom and dad and brothers and sisters. And then in 2007, I'd come home from a trip, and someone had broken into my car and stolen my entire manuscript. And so everything was gone, all the pictures, all the writings and everything. And so from that point, I decided to really get busy and really focus on it, because the goal was to finish the book while my parents were alive and still had a chance to read it. And it was just 8 weeks after I self-published in 2009. And my mom unexpectedly died of pneumonia just 8 weeks later. So I accomplished that short-term goal.
And you've now been picked up for reprinting, and it's in more national distribution now. So
Yeah.
there's a whole new audience for this book. Does Raised with Praise, does that mean you don't criticize your kids?
Yeah, it's actually being raised in a positive light. It's free of criticism and more of a parent's approach is, they're your first teacher, and so my mom's attitude was, I'm here to teach you, and when things happen that, you could, I'd walk in the back door with mud on my boots, and she just had cleaned the floor, and instead of reacting and going, oh my gosh, get out of that, oh crap, instead it was, hey, it looks like you brought some of the backyard in with your shoes. Let me help you get your boots off. It was that kind of approach. It was not so reactive, but more proactive, and that's what I grew up with.
So do you mean to say that there were never problems that you would get disciplined for within your family unit?
That definitely was. My parents ran a pretty tight ship, and you knew where the fence posts were, and you knew when you'd go out of line, and but their attitude was, we're here to help you learn. We're not here to find fault when you make a mistake. And so it was that different approach, and that's what I thought was special, and that's why I wanted to share this story with the world. In 2014, Tate Publishing out of Oklahoma discovered this book, and they decided to take it nationally and publish it, which was really exciting. It was a very humbling experience. It's something
Wonderful.
I didn't expect, yeah.
Right. And we should point out we're talking with Bill Callaghan. We're talking about his book, Raised with Praise. And folks, there's one special little entry here that I saved just for us, and I hope I can find it here. When kids are young, where is that now? Oh, here we go. Sesame Street was a lifesaver because they'd watch it while I made lunch. Sesame Street, a show, of course, on KSMQ on PBS. So
Sure.
Sesame Street helped you raise your kids a little bit. A little bit.
Yeah, and when you're at home with your kids, my wife would be working at the hospital, and you really get to appreciate what moms do. There's a whole chapter in here dedicated to moms, because moms are minute by minute, moment by moment when it comes to raising kids. Dads are more day by day, and so I would sit down and watch Land Before Time and Sesame Street and these different shows with them, and you learn a lot, and just putting yourself in that setting with your kids.
And daily chores. You find if you can get your family maybe to do chores for somebody else in the family, like helping clean up the other person's dishes, it helps them kind of get out of themselves a little bit and help the rest of the family instead of just thinking about themselves.
Yeah, that's right, and I that's how I was raised with 10 brothers and sisters. You had a lot of opinions in our home, and you had a lot of input, and so when my wife and I went on to raise our 4 kids, I tried to draw from some of those things that I learned as a kid, and incorporate that as a parent. It's funny, the oldest kid in the family is the one who teaches the parents how to be parents, because the way you're raised and the way your wife is raised is always 2 different things, and those differences get exposed when your first child shows up, and then you realize we got to find some common denominators, and we got to put this together and move forward with it with a solid approach.
One of the points you make that was moved me, that I understood very well along those lines, is that when you may have a disagreement with your significant other about an issue going on with your children, you write that your parents always left the scene and went by themselves to discuss it, and then came back out with a resolution instead of battling it out. And I found that so difficult. I mean, because you're busy and kids are running around, it's just easy to make a quick decision.
Yeah.
And disagree, and move on. But that was very important to them.
Yeah, that was really sharp, and so you wouldn't see them battling amongst themselves, sorting out a situation, but when they would come back into play, it was a cohesive approach. It was, this is what we're doing. This is, we're both in on this together, and this is how we're going to move forward. So My mom and dad raised kids in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, and they went on, to have those 11 kids went on to have 35, grandchildren, for them to enjoy. So I think always being around that young, new life coming in and surrounding them, kept them young at heart. They really were. They're very young at heart.
It would be easy to imagine that as the young people in that huge family grow up, they grow apart and really don't like each other very much. But you have stuck together. You have a family business together.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think, I work with 4 other brothers in our family business, and I've worked in the company since 1980. And our dad is 92 years old. He comes to work and he answers the phone, which is hilarious in and of itself. And it's unfiltered, I think, in most cases. But he raised 11 kids, and 5 of his sons worked together in this business. And I really attribute a lot to that. Is when we were kids growing up, my parents weren't big on Christmas presents under the tree. They would pack their family into 2 Volkswagen buses and head off to Florida, and we'd go to Daytona Beach, and we would get to know each other. And it's a gift that still lasts today, because the idea, and as you know, when you go on a family vacation, you're creating memories and you're creating lifetime events that are close, that only you get to share with your family. So they're special. And so as kids growing up, we would do that, and we got to know each other, even though the oldest was maybe 22 years older than the youngest. It spanned over a couple of generations.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you for joining us. And a fascinating book, a lot of work. You wrote it twice, basically.
Yeah, there was a lot of work that went into it. I was thrilled to get it done, and I really appreciate you having me here today.
Sure, Bill Callaghan, and it's published by Tate Publishing. The book is called Raised with Praise. Look for it on Amazon, maybe coming to a bookstore near you very shortly. Stay tuned. We'll return with Spencer Salmon to talk about mountain biking in just a moment.
Queue up your own comments for On Cue and send them to us at onq@ksmq.org.
And welcome back to On Cue. I'm Eric Olson, and we're going to get on our bikes now and learn about an organization, a brand new organization that's coming to Austin. And if you have young people, how they can participate. Spencer Salmon is here with his friend.
Yes.
His specialized bike. So how many miles have you put on that thing? Any idea?
Somewhere, this one is one of my less used bikes, so it's probably somewhere around 2,000 miles. But trail miles are a lot different than road miles too, though. So
You have more than one of these?
I have about 5 bikes right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like a guitarist in a rock band. You got all these different axes depending on what you want to do.
Exactly, yes.
Talk about this bike riding organization or club that you're trying to organize. What's it all about?
Right, so we're starting the Austin Area Composite High School mountain bike team. And what it is a larger organization called NICA, which stands for National Interscholastic Cycling Association.
Okay.
They basically have this project where there's high school mountain biking. They're going to eventually open it up to other types of riding, but it's a non-traditional sport aimed at getting everybody involved in a sport.
Very neat.
Yeah, it started in Northern California in 2001. So.
Okay, and this is like a competitive, is it a team thing?
Right, it's a very interesting sport because it's both team and individual. The team gets scored overall for how everybody does, but individually a student can podium or get place. So the great thing about it is everybody contributes. It's a little bit different than our traditional sports. When a kid is out there riding his bike, he is contributing to the team. No matter how well he places or how far back he places, he or she is still contributing to the overall score of the team.
Wow. And so it's a school or city, town against town. How will this work, and what ages are you looking for?
Right. So this year we're opening up Minnesota's a test league, so they're going to allow middle school. So it's 7th grade through 12th grade. And the goal of the league is to be high school versus high school. But in bigger states like Minnesota, where it's very stretched out and has higher rural populations, it's kind of area versus area.
So you already know who the team is for this? You've kind of gotten some
We have some people signed up, yes.
Okay. How far of an area, because our broadcast here goes to, Rochester and Albert Lee and over to Winona. What?
Rochester has 2 teams. They have Mayo and Rochester
John
Mayo
Marshall,
and then John Marshall. They have the 2 high schools already have a team out there. So Rochester has a team, and they actually have a course out there as well. One of our races is going to be held at their course out there. So Rochester is going to be covered. But we're thinking, originally the plan was all of Mower County, but certainly if we have some people from Albert Lee who want to race, we're kind of open just to getting kids involved. And what we've seen, or what the league has seen, is you get kids involved, and maybe next year Albert Lee will have their own team because maybe there's going to be enough interest there. So we kind of work together to get things rolling.
And when is the season? Is there official season
There's an official
like other
season.
sports?
So we start in August. Well, actually, I'm sorry. We start racing in September, and it goes through the end of October. There's just 5 Sundays is what we race. So.
And what does a course look like for folks that aren't familiar with this kind of riding?
So these courses are mountain bike courses, and so it's off-road, what we call single track, so pretty narrow, but then there's wide open spaces. And the way that the Minnesota League has it set up, most of the courses you can see the whole course from one vantage point, so they can keep an eye on the kids, because safety is our #1 concern. And then there's going to be areas of narrow single track and then wide track, and the wide spaces are where we're going to encourage passing, and safe riding. So.
And is it on school property, or how do you find places?
Well, around the state there's a lot of mountain bike places already. Like I mentioned, it's called Game Haven in Rochester. It's kind of out by the Scout Camp. That's being converted into mountain biking trails. Another one is the Jail Trail in St. Cloud. That's also a trail, mountain bike trails. These are normally operating mountain bike trails.
Over by the prison or something?
I believe so. Yeah, I actually haven't been over there yet. Yeah, it's a funny name,
there's
right?
a big one there, so that's what I figured.
Yeah, yep.
And by the way, we're talking with Spencer Salmon. This is an exciting new sport, a competitive sport for your young person. If you're coming into junior high or middle school right now in Austin or surrounding area and they like to mountain bike, which means the thicker, wider tires, right?
Yep.
Give a call to Austin Park and Rec, because they're kind of coordinating this team, this club sport this first year.
Yep.
So it's team against team. Is it timed? Like, is the first person and the other team, and they say ready, set, go, and then everybody takes off?
Right. It's a big mass start event, which I should let you know. It's uphill, so it's very slow start. Again, kind of focusing on that safety aspect. But we have usually between 3 and 4 laps. And so the kids are going to be riding about 6 to 12 miles in the race. It depends on what level they're in, because it's multiple. There's about 4 different categories, more than that, but 4 basic races. And so, it's timed, and then they just keep track of the kids. And this year they're going to have number plates that'll be prescribed to them, and it's got a little strip in it. And so when they go over the line, it'll connect to a computer and give you your lap time perfectly.
Oh, sure.
So it's called chip timing. It's very popular. And it's really makes things smooth.
Are there, now in car racing or other things, they do, they use this term heats, where the first group goes, then the second group goes, or the winners of the first group do it again? Or
sure. We don't have so much heats, but we do have what are called call-ups. So the kids who are doing much better throughout the season, the people who are finishing in the top 10, get called up to the front right before the race starts. And that's actually more of a safety precaution, because we don't want to get a fast kid stuck in the back. If we get them in the front, they can move off the front and continue to compete, and allow the ones behind to be safe as well.
How many, what's a team number, or how many do you have?
Okay, so right now, I believe unofficially we have 5 kids. But we've had a lot of inquiries, and we expect to kind of gain more steam, as time passes.
So the other team would only allow 5 if you have 5, or how does that go?
No, you can have as many kids. I think the limit is 36 kids.
Okay.
And we see places in the cities bumping up against that limit, but
So Austin, Albert Lee, Blooming Prairie, Grand Meadow, Hayfield, Brownsdale, Southland, it's a call out to all of the, and not just middle school, through high school.
Yep,
I got
through
that
high
wrong
school.
before when I said middle school. It's
Yep,
all
middle school through high school.
6 through 12, if you like biking, call the Park and Rec department.
As far as biking goes, there's teams with kids who had never ridden a bike before and they started racing. So, if you even have, if you even think you want to ride a bike, come and see us. We'll teach you how to ride a bike. We'll get you set up on a bike. There's ways of getting you on a bike and getting you out riding. It's a really fun sport.
That's important to know, because I would think I would be daunted.
Right.
It would be daunting.
Yeah, but I don't want it to be intimidating. We're just here to get kids out riding and have fun. It's not, it can be competitive. You can make it as competitive as you want it, but I'm just all about getting kids out. You learn a lot of valuable life skills out on the mountain bike course. So
Like falling down.
yeah, that one.
A very good reminder how to stay on your bike is
Yeah.
falling down. And
Yes.
good reinforcing agent.
Yep.
That's wonderful, Spencer. Spencer Salmon, thank you for your service, and welcome to the region. And hope it goes well. Come back and show us some videos of some of your matches or
Races.
Races, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, come back and show us. We'd love to have you.
Great. Well, thank you for taking the time.
You bet. And we'll be back with our Vision 2020 segment when On Cue continues right after this.
On Cue's Vision 2020 segment is brought to you by Hormel Foundation, Games People Play, and Turtle Creek Estates.
And welcome back to On Cue. Time now for our Vision 2020 update with Jeff Smith from Community Pride and Spirit Committee.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you.
And this summer, part of your group's goal is to do something with graffiti, as I understand it.
That's right.
Talk a little bit about that.
That's right. So what we've done, so in partnership with the local arts community and the Park and Rec Board, we've set up kind of a good graffiti program so people can sign up at the Park and Rec. There's kind of some guidelines and some volunteer forms, and then they can go out there with friends or family or church group or whatever and hit spots that have been tagged, vandalized with graffiti and negative stuff, and they can go out there and put pretty much what they want to in its place.
So it's an art. The community, your committee, determined that, well, we know that graffiti is kind of a negative
Right.
to a community.
Yeah.
So this is a response to that,
Yeah.
while giving young people an outlet.
Right.
That's a great idea. Has it been done elsewhere that you know of? Or?
I think variations of that have been done. Sometimes where they kind of like try to reform people that are vandals into more, get them to be more graffiti artists and things like that. I don't know. I don't know if there's been something quite like that.
And it's through Park and Rec, or somehow they're involved.
So the reason they're a big partner in it is because that a lot of the places that have the vandalism or the graffiti are public property, parkways. So they really have to. They're real important in it because they have to have the permission, and they have been dealing with it, trying to tackle this, through the department and paid staff for years, where they would, put chemicals on and try to scrub it away, and you'd always be able to see a little bit remaining. So this just gives them, takes a little bit of the load off of them too.
Who can participate?
Pretty much anybody. If it's somebody under 18, they'll need a parent along or a.
And do they say here's what I propose to paint or whatever?
We've tried to keep it pretty loose, where people don't have to come in with exact, here's my diagram of what I'm going to be painting and things like that. That really, that if they have good intentions, that they can kind of make it their own. And,
how fun!
Kind of the way we say it is, we want to make it as easy to go paint something nice as it is for somebody to go paint something terrible.
Mm-hmm. And so would they reach out to the city, the Park and Rec department?
Yeah, they would probably, the easiest would just be to drop right into Park and Rec. They're down there kind of by the Paramount.
Right. And say, hey, my friends and I want to paint. What are some areas of town where we can go? They get assigned
Yeah, and
a
they can
building or
really,
something?
if there's like, I mean, if they live near a place that's gotten tagged or you know, that where they walk through or whatever, if there's a spot that they see a lot, you know, has a problem, and they want to pick their spot, they can, or you know, otherwise they'll kind of get pointed to, well, go take a look around this area and choose your spot.
So if you're interested, go to Park and Rec, Austin Park and Rec, and bring your creativity and make a better statement for the community.
That's
Great.
right. That's
Thanks,
right.
Jeff.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Jeff Smith from Community Pride and Spirit of Vision 2020. And that'll do it for this edition of On Cue. I'm Eric Olson. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next time.
You can watch On Cue anytime by visiting the KSMQ TV website, ksmq.org. On Cue is a production of KSMQ Television in Austin, nonprofit public television.